Yo, welcome to Fast Forward Mindset Motivational Podcast. I'm your host, Coach James. This is where we rewire your thoughts, reset your mindset, and fast forward your life. No more rewinding, just discipline, motivation, and the truth you need to become unstoppable. If you're ready to elevate your mindset and take control of your future, you're in the right place. Let's go. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Hope all is going well. So, y'all, I do my recordings with guests and my own individual recordings when I have time, because I'm a busy guy. I got all these special projects going on. I'm married. I got adult children, and if you know anything about adult children, at the end of the day, they're still your children. So you got to do it for them, right? So they take up time. But anyways, I have a guest today, and I'm recording today on a Sunday. And people are probably questioning, like, hey, why are you recording on football Sunday? Hey, a man's got to do what a man's got to do. But the reason why I'm really recording today is because I'm excited to have this guest on today. And I don't want to give y'all too much info about him. He's going to introduce himself. But I'm excited to have you today on the show. And let me just say, on behalf of myself and Fast Forward Mindset Motivational Podcast, welcome to our podcast.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for having me on, James, man. We got some stuff to talk about today for sure.
Definitely. That's exactly what I want to hear. All right, man. Well, hey, like I say, my show is your show. When you're a guest, go ahead and kick it off. Introduce yourself to everyone. Let them know who you are and share your journey.
Yeah, man. So appreciate everybody listening in. My name is George. I'm the CEO of a company called Financial Freedom Builders. It is a financial transformation company. We focus on changing and transforming the mindset when it comes to managing finances. And so, again, I want to thank James and this wonderful podcast for having me on. And today, really, the gist of everything today is we want to be able to pour back into you all, giving you guys some life, some tools, some tips, things to take back from this episode, to take back into your journey, helping you get to ultimately your financial freedom. So just a little bit about myself. You know, I'm married. I've been married. Next year will be 10 years, and I have 3 beautiful children. I have an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 5-year-old, all boys. So it's WWE in the house all the time.
Yeah.
So my wife is basically the referee of the fight. And then every time there's an issue, she calls in Vince McMahon. And so that's when I come. I want hands off.
I love how you put that, man.
Yeah, man. I want nothing to do with it, man, unless she needs me. But when she does, it's on and popping. But aside from that, man, I I live in Florida. I've been here for about 20 years now.
Okay.
And essentially, I've always been into numbers, been into finances from a long time. I got my bachelor's in finance back in 2012. Decided to go back for my master's in business. Decided whether it was for the best or not, who knows? But I did get back into it, and I got it back in 2015. I pursued healthcare for a while. I was in the healthcare administration, got into executive roles, AVP and beyond, and did really well, made some good money. But at the end of the day, James, I saw that there was still purpose missing in regards to what essentially God had me wanting to do here. And one of the things that I've always been able to do is serve and connect with people. And so I decided to bridge that with the fact of my abilities and being able to manage finances, compound my money, make me more money. And then I decided to turn around with my wife, and we decided to start this company. I think one of the biggest catalysts, I'd say about 5 or 6 years ago, a lot of people were kind of going through some situations, their circumstances, and in different circumstances, folks reached out to me from different walks of life. They all knew me, but they didn't know each other. Just different financial questions or whatnot. It was probably over the span of about 3 weeks. And I just found it so random how they're reaching out to me. And so I reached out to my wife, and I'm talking to my wife, and I'm like, I don't really understand what's going on over here. People reaching out and whatnot. And so she told me something so profound. It seemed so simple at the time, but it was so profound. But it just changed. It really changed the trajectory of what I was doing next. And so she told me, she said, this is that they want to hear what you have to say about the matter. So tell them. And it was the journey of me telling people from my perspective as to what the guidance is, what the recommendation is, etc. And one thing led to another. One advice led to good outcome, which led to inspiration to do something, and then it blew up into this whole thing. And honestly, aside from that, the fact of just the company, I just love people. and I love seeing people being able to reach their ultimate financial potential. So that's really why I started this journey, man.
Wow, that's beautiful, man. And I'll say this: I just celebrated my 12th year of marriage yesterday. It was my anniversary with my wife, and it's so amazing how you can be with a woman who can make things just sound great, right? We have these ideas as men, and when you're with a strong woman that knows you, because that's how she can give you this feedback. She knows you, and
That's
she
right.
said, "This is what people want from you." And it's funny you said it, because it's kind of almost like when I started the podcast. I told my wife what I wanted to do. I said, "Why me? Why me?" I prayed about it, and I felt like God put it on my heart. And when I asked her why me, she was like, "Because everyone loves to hear what you have to say."
Yes, sir.
And kind of almost in a general sense of how your wife expressed it to you, I got the same thing from my wife. So I think that's very beautiful how you took the word she used, and started a company together. That's just great, man.
Yeah, man. And shout out to the wives, the spouses. Shout out to the parents out there
Yep.
that are supporting, the grandparents, aunts, uncles, the kids, etc. Everybody that's just supporting each other. I just think we're in such a place in our world where everything is just so negative and gloom and doom and whatnot. But there's so much power in community and in uplifting one another, letting people reach their potential. And so it's important that we find ways to continue to pour life into each other. So I just want to give a quick shout out to everybody involved.
Yeah, man. That's great. Yep.
So a couple things. So on my end,
Okay.
We talked about, you mentioned about Sunday football, and we're recording on a Sunday and the podcast. It's also kind of what I want to talk about a little bit today, which is the mindset when it comes to the money mindset, right? The financial mindset. I want to talk about that because a lot of times what happens is a lot of people we have these goals, we have these dreams, we have these aspirations. We want to do something, we want to evolve into these things, but it starts in our mind, but the transfer from it becoming to our mind into what we do on a daily basis, there's a long journey there. And a lot of times people don't ever allow or don't get to the point where the dream, the goal, the passion, etc., escapes the mind and becomes actual reality, because there is a lot of sacrifice that go into that. We talk about this podcast and just in general. A lot of times we get hung up in watching the lives of others, those that are doing things that we desire to do. Like, for example, Sunday, big time football. I'm a big football person too. I love football. I love sports and whatnot. But when on a Sunday, for example, during the NFL, we're essentially glued to the TV for a few reasons. Number one, there might be financial reasons why we have essentially put our money into based off of the outcomes. And again, parlays and all that, they're fun, they're thrilling, they're good times, whatnot. But essentially, you're putting your hard-earned money to chance in hopes that somebody else on the other side, who's currently living out their dream, I add, performs their outcome of their living out their dream in a way that's favorable for you financially, so that you could have a fighting chance your dream. Kind of crazy.
Yep.
At the same time, we're cheering on for individuals and teams where for 99% of us, these people couldn't identify you in the street from anybody else, don't know you exist, don't know of your problems, quite honestly, don't care of your problems. The only reason that you're valuable to them is because you're using your hard-earned money, of which is deterring you from your dream, to invest into their dreams. And then lastly, we're then watching these games, essentially cheering people on who are currently living out their dreams. And yet we find ourselves wanting and desiring and lacking maybe those people to pour into our lives. And so I love football more than anything else, but I really want to in this episode in general, I want to encourage and challenge people to embrace what we're saying, because it's all out of love, but it's all out of just keeping things real. That yes, I may be living out dreams that I've had in my life, but it came from understanding that I had to recalibrate and retool how I went about my day-to-day things so that I can see financial advancements that I ultimately desire.
Wow. That is one of the most powerful statements I've heard in a long time. Yeah, you're right. A lot of us pay for someone else's dream to watch them be prosperous off of our dollar. And yet we're sitting in the same spot because we're using our dollar to make somebody else live out their dream. Yep.
I'm telling you, man. I mean, it's not just in sports. Again, I love football, but I love all that. But it goes into music, right?
Yeah.
Same with the music industry, right? We're buying these CDs. We're wanting to know what's going on with this drama between this rapper and this other rapper, and this. We just consume ourselves in the lives of others that are living out their dreams. Why? Because it's much more it's much easier for us to latch on to someone else living their dreams and vicariously do it through them, instead of going through the grind and then trying to exercise how we can live out ours. And a lot of times it's just because of lack of knowledge. And so that's the other piece of it, right? How do we embrace, or how do we uncover, or how do we identify a money mindset, right? I think there's a few things that come into that. Number one is that you have to understand how money operates. Most people, James, don't understand how money operates. And a lot of and for good reasons. Number one, lack of exposure to education. So my parents were from the Dominican Republic. They moved here decades ago, many years ago, and then they decided to move to the United States to give themselves an ability to have a different life, right? And they worked hard. They worked countless hours. They gave a lot of themselves for their dreams, and to help my sister and I be able to have a good life. And, you know, God has blessed us with a great life. And it became a lot of it today is on the backs of the stuff that and the time that my parents spent. That's also part of the problem. It's on the backs of the time that they spent. Because what happened was, in the journey, they weren't exposed to the way money worked. And so what they were taught was, you got to put in the time to make money. You work hard, you gotta save your money, you gotta work overtime if you need to, get a second job if you need to, third job if bills are tight, and it's more time and 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 more energy and more energy and more energy and more energy. And you're doing two things there. A, you're trying to just get by so that you can get enough breathing space to try to climb higher, but you've already spent a lot of time and energy, and in pursuit of that, all that time and energy went to making somebody else's dream come true. And so this is how we're programmed. Even in the institution thing, this is why I started making a side joke about it. And again, I have no problem with education and college and all. I have no problem with it. I think it's great. I think depending on what you decide, what your passion is and what you're looking to do as a profession, college and the university route is the way to go. It creates a safety blanket because you have a piece of paper that differentiates you, or at least it used to, not as much anymore, but it used to differentiate you in the marketplace and somebody else, because hey, we may look similar, but I got this and they don't, so you should consider me. Now, the issue is that what is school? Like, what are those institutions? Those institutions are essentially grooming individuals to become workers for somebody else in the marketplace once they're done. You're grooming people to be ready to start spending time for money, let alone the fact that the institutions are expensive, right? You're spending tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars to go get the piece of paper, of which on the other side of it, once you're out, now you owe the government. So you have to pay back that, but you need means to be able to do that. So, hey, they tell you, well, you've got this piece of paper. Use that piece of paper, go into the workforce, start using your time, and over time, you will should be able to pay back the quote-unquote investment for using that piece. But the problem is that we're being programmed from the beginning to spend time for money. But the problem is, James, is that is not, and I repeat, that is not, and if you've been listening this long enough already into this, well, hey, I hope you've enjoyed this conversation so far. But the first nugget of wisdom here is that trading time for money is a terrible trade. It is a terrible trade when it comes to the financial mindset. Trading time for money is a terrible trade when it comes to retraining yourself in regards to having a financial mindset. We are all given the same asset. We all carry the same valuable asset. And no, it's not money. It's time. Time is the most valuable asset that keeps us all balanced. We all have the same amount of hours in one day, 24 hours. Doesn't matter if you're the richest person in the world. Doesn't matter if you're living in the street. Everybody's got the same resource there. That keeps us all balanced, which means that that equalizes all of us, which makes it the most valuable asset because everything else differentiates us. But this asset of time, we can use that however we want to use it. Now, the way to pursue this is, can you increase your income while not either ideally not increasing time, but ideally B is decreasing time. So can you make more money using less time? And so that concept sounds crazy if you're like, wait, how is it even possible? Because if I don't go to work, I don't make money. And I'm here to tell you that is the problem. Because if you don't currently go to work, you don't make money, which means that the moment you stop working, you no longer make any money. So you have to essentially keep working until you die. Or, as most Americans are wait until they're 65 to hopefully there will be something waiting for them there that will sustain them the latter parts of the years of life. Well, first of all, I don't know about you, but I'm not interested in the next 20 to 30 years of my life having to wait to play chance, again, similar to the parlay, play chance that something there will be waiting for me at 65. Because it is a dangerous assumption, especially in the economy that we're in. The dollar is clearly devaluing by day, right? It is coming apart very quickly. You see gold hitting an all-time high. So somebody's buying gold, somebody's buying these commodities because they know something we don't yet. And so clearly we are essentially taking more risk than we have realized, anticipating and expecting that at 65 there will be something waiting for us. So in the event 65 something's not there, then you ask the question, okay, so how are you going to keep making money? Well, I got to keep working. So you're essentially going to work until you die. So the question becomes, what can I do to make money while not trading time? And so that puts us at an interesting crossroads or dilemma, right?
Right.
So then this is how it goes. First thing is you have to understand that income is defined, or money is defined by your net worth. We teach this in Financial Freedom Builders. Again, there's a reason why we started this company. It wasn't that people's memberships, and we have a ton of members across the world, and it's a blessing, and it's been great, and I love everything that I do. I love all the members, the coaches, everything and beyond that we have. But I didn't start it for that because I don't need Financial Freedom Builders to live. I live off of what we do with our own money and how we make our own money. So we teach this though in Financial Freedom Builders, the fundamental truth when it comes to money is that your net worth is the most important factor when it comes to finances. Okay? Net worth is defined by an equation. It is your net income less your total expenses equals your net worth. I will repeat myself. Your net income less your total expenses equals your net worth. And so income is the money coming in, whether it's through your job, whether it's through overtime, whether it's through Uber, whether it's through whatever. That's the money coming in is your net income. Okay. And it's net because you had to pay taxes on that.
Right.
Total expenses is anything you are responsible for financially that comes out of what comes in from your end. So whether it's your bills, whether it's your mortgage, your rent, your debts, your credit cards, whatever the case may be, what remains at the end of that equation, whatever remains, if anything remains, that number is the most important number in your financial journey. Nothing else on that equation matters more than whatever that number is at the end of that equation. For a lot of people, it may be a negative, whatever it is. It might be some other people, might be a positive number. And in a lot of the cases, it could be a significantly positive number. But the journey is how can you and I, how can we increase that number at the end of that equation, which is the net worth? How do we increase our net worth? There are two factors and two avenues to be able to do that. Number one, you can, is going back to math, elementary math, it's a subtraction problem. One number less minus another number equals this other number. So if you want to increase the number remaining, you can do two things. One is increase your net income. You can get another job. You can get overtime. You can get a promotion. You can start driving Uber. You can start a side hustle, start a podcast. You can do a lot of different things, right? These are different things you can do. The problem is, though, James, is that in most, not all, but in most cases, when it comes to increasing your net income, if not done correctly, it requires you to use your most valuable asset, which is not money. It is time. You get a promotion, you got to work more, right? They need more of you. You got to work the staff. You got to do that. If you get a second job, we already know that's more money. If you get a side hustle, it's great, but you got to spend more time on the side hustle. You start driving Uber, it's great, but now you're using your time, and now you're starting to use even your resources. That's a double whammy. So you could go that route, and if you increase your net income and then everything else remains the same, yes, you will increase your net worth. It costs you more time. But another way you can do the same exact thing and increase your net worth is you can just decrease your expenses. Now we go down. Now that takes us down another rabbit hole there, because then the question becomes: so how do we decrease our net by decreasing our expenses, increase our net worth? Well, let's use the same example. We'll use a basic example of an equation, and then we'll go into this. If you had $10 and then $10 came out, your net worth in that scenario would be zero. If you increase your net income in the same scenario, if you get $12 and then $10 comes out, your net worth is 2. But if your net income is still 10, but if your expenses are now from 10, it goes to 8, your net worth is also 2. So in the scenario where you got more money in because you started doing overtime, you got a net worth of 2. But in the same scenario where you decreased money coming out, you still got a net worth of 2. That means there's 2 ways to get to the number 2 in that equation. So if you can find from within your resources or what's coming out, how to decrease things that don't need, eliminating waste. And we do that through our community. So we have 6 pillars: expense management, budgeting, savings growth, net income growth, investing, and succession planning. So the first fundamental pillar we always start with every member in our community. I don't care how much money you make. We got people making good money there. We got people making it by. Everything in between. Everybody starts with expense management, because we've got to figure out how can you navigate your expenses better to start increasing your net worth without having to do anything else to improve your net worth, just reducing your expenses. So there are a lot of things we can do. So lots of things, we go through a lot of strategies. There's a lot of things people never consider in their life. So every time I do this, every time we go through this and we teach folks about it, they always are like, I've never in my life ever thought about any of those things. But one of the things I will leave you guys with as a tip for today, pro tip, would be is that I would review first, and I'm a fan of this company, not a financial advice, but I'm a fan of the company of Amazon. But I would start first, I would review Amazon. If I were you guys, I would look into your trends on how much you spend on Amazon on a monthly basis. And I would look back maybe 6 months or maybe a year. Okay, on average, we spend, $120 on Amazon, buying the random stuff, Amazon Prime, this and that. What I would tell you is I would have you consider the idea of now putting terms and conditions to when you spend Amazon. And I would do what's called the 2-for-1. Going forward, every time you decide to go into Amazon to buy something, the deal is for every $2 you spend in Amazon, you will put $1 to investing into the company of Amazon. So you do a 2-for-1. So for example, if you decide to buy, something, and it costs you $50 at Amazon, right? You would buy your detail at $50. However, at the same time, you would have to put in $25, buying $25 worth of Amazon stock at the same time. 2 things are going to happen there. Number 1, either A, you are going to get very rich very quickly because you're going to start owning a lot of Amazon, but you're also going to become very broke because you're going to wipe out your account, because now it's not $50, it's $75 when I go to buy that $50 thing, because I owe $25 to Amazon stock. And as Amazon improves, which I do believe that company is going to do very well over the next 3 to 5 years, because it's not financial advice, but I do think that company will do really well. So that's one route. Or, which is what's probably going to happen, is you are now going to think twice about it, because you're going to say, well, wait a minute. I don't have $75. I had $50 to buy Amazon. I don't have $75. So I would like to buy this at $50, but I can't do it. But if I get it at $30, then I would only do 20 at Amazon. And then I can, or 15 at Amazon, and then I'm more or less within the zone I want to buy. Well, two things happen.
Yeah.
Number one is that you reduced how much you were going to spend at Amazon to begin with. You were going to spend 50. You ended up only spending 30. Now, in your mind, you spent 50. But what you really did was you only spent 30. So you reduced the expense of your Amazon. And at the same time, you put 15 toward the Amazon stock, which is another way now that's going to help you increase your net income at the same exact time. So you did a double whammy. You do that enough times, if you start surveying some of your stuff that you do a lot differently, you will start seeing your behavior changing with expense management. Now, in that same scenario, the one thing you did there different than you've done in anything I've talked about from the beginning here is that you didn't use time to improve your net worth. You essentially just retooled how you go about using your funds, and you didn't have to pick up overtime, a side hustle. You didn't have to miss the kids' soccer game. You didn't have to work long hours. You didn't have to get burnt out. You didn't have to do anything. You just retooled yourself, and essentially you've increased your net worth because you reduced your expenses and you've increased your net income all at the same time. And so those are things that we teach about there, man. It's the mindset. And I think that's what folks start learning, how to evolve in the mindset when it comes to finances.
Yeah, man, that is the most powerful thing I have ever heard when it comes to finances, financial freedom in my life. Now, I know about how to build credit. I know about how to take your money, invest it in places where over time you may get a little kickback, right? But how you put that is that you are saving time with that method. Time is so important. Example, someone say, hey, I need 5 minutes of your time, or give me $5. Guess what I'm going to give you? I'm going to give you $5 because really in reality, I don't have 5 minutes to talk to you. So here go those $5. Leave me alone. Give me my 5 minutes. Hope you have a nice life with that $5. So, right. Man, just how you put that, bro, it just blew my mind. So that is great. I love the way you articulated that to my listeners.
The other thing about it, James, that I find fascinating, and we can start descending the plane after this, but I will tell you is that that's the first piece with the mindset, right? Then it's the next piece of, okay, how do I go from, okay, now I find myself reducing my expenses. I have extra left over. I'm working on that, etc. And again, if people need guidance, there's so many things out there. There's free resources out there. You can find stuff on the internet. You can invest in yourself, get into stuff, get into a community, whatever the case may be. But the other piece is, okay, if I get leftover, then what do I do with this money that I have here? Because I don't know where to go and what to do and how to manage that. The biggest thing I will tell you is that it's not a one size fit all for anybody. So if anybody tells you need to do whatever the case may be, it's a misconception. I'll give you an example. A lot of times people tell you, and we've told people this in the past at the appropriate time, but there are times when people just say, yeah, man, just take your money and start investing into the S&P 500. You're going to do great. You're going to beat the market. You're going to do great. You're going to do this and that. Sometimes that's true. Sometimes. But sometimes there might be better avenues to do that, especially in the times and in the journey we're going into with this market. I think this market, the economy of the U.S. is being propped up for a little while. I think we're going to see some corrections coming in the not too distant future, whether 12 to 18 months. I don't think this Goldilocks thing we got going on is going to last much longer. Okay, but I'll give you an example. The other thing I would tell you is that, okay, one route that we've told folks this year that's joining our community throughout this year, we've told them, listen, if you have excess, yes, diversify, do different things. We can teach you how to, manage those things. But maybe you may want to consider not just the S&P 500, or maybe a little less of the S&P 500, and maybe go a different route. And so the route we told them this year is we really like precious metals. We think precious metals is going to be a great way to go this year, because I think we're going into a time of instability and volatility in our global economy. And instead of taking chances as to which market and which sector and which this and which that's going to do well, you could backdoor it for now and then just take the safe road with precious metals. The one we suggested was silver. This is a fun fact. Many people may not know this. Year to date, so the S&P 500 has hit, I think 40 to 50 times this year, a new all-time high. It's continued to make a lot of new all-time highs. It's just been running and running and running and running and running and running. It's been great. I want to say, I could be wrong with the numbers. I want to say the S&P 500 this year is up maybe like 40%, maybe 35 to 40% if I'm not mistaken. Not bad. It's not bad numbers. But did you know that silver, same time frame this year, silver is up, I want to say is north of 90% this year.
Wow.
And so most times folks get hung up that it has to be one size fit all. It's not one size fit all. It's understanding what makes the most sense for you and then finding ways to then get into taking into action. And so the other thing I will tell you is that now that you've learned that trading time for money is the bad trade, the real trade you need to learn and evolve and learn to get comfortable with is trading money for more money. And a lot of times people get very, very uneasy about trading money for more money because the risk that comes with putting your money to work scares people at times. Well, here's the thing. If you don't put your money to risk, then you've got to put yourself into risk. And we've already talked about that. Right now, most people are living their lives at risk far beyond that they can imagine because they are expecting and anticipating and preparing for Social Security to still be there at 65. And it could very well be. But there is a chance that that may not look the same by the time you're 65. And so you might be putting yourself into risk. But if the thing is why most people, James, don't like to put their money into risk or letting their money make money, it's not because of the fact of losing money. Most people think I don't want to lose money. It's not because of about losing money. Because of the time it took to get the money you're going to put into risk. You see, the money itself, you remember that annoying coworker you had to deal with at work. You remember the long hours. You remember the days you woke up not wanting to go to work. You remember all the times you missed out on things that you wanted to be in to get all of the money that you have here. And that money is now at risk, which means that it could or could not, it may or may not be there tomorrow, depending on what you do. Of course, there's ways to go about that and mitigate. But reality is it may not be there tomorrow, which means that all the BS you've been dealing with to get that money no longer becomes valid. That's why people get scared, because it's essentially, I did a lot to get that money. I can't fathom or stomach the idea of losing the money. But the problem is, man, if you don't find ways to make your money work for you, you will work until you die. So you have to not necessarily not be scared or concerned about putting your money to risk, because there is an appropriate fear that needs to be in place when you're doing investing. You have to have appropriate fear, because if you just think nothing can go wrong, you're taking a level of risk in regards to your financial future that's unnecessary. So there's an appropriate fear that needs to be in place. But one of the ways to surround that fear with certainty is getting the proper education you need to learn how to properly invest. Understand that there are waves in the market. Understand when it's a good time to buy. Understand what dollar cost averaging is. Understand what swing trading is, options trading. Invest, learn cryptocurrency, learn what precious metals are, learn what trading futures are, learn what trading Forex is, learn real estate. All of these things that will equip you with knowledge that will fortify the certainty you need, so that when it comes to investing and the uncertainties and the fears that come with it, you have the backbone saying, okay, but I got the knowledge to understand what I'm getting myself into, how to exit things, so I don't take too much losses, how to get gains, how to avoid, etc. But for everybody listening to this, and again, I hope you guys really enjoyed this. The biggest thing I can take away from this is that we have to retool our mind when it comes to money. Number one is that we have to avoid as much as possible trading time for money. You may have to do it for a season. We understand that. You have to work through the season to get to the next season, but you have to move away from trading time for money. The second thing is one way to do that is focusing on your net worth. If you can focus on your net worth, which is your net income minus your total expenses, focus on the number that remains as your focus and your primary only thing you care about when it comes to your finances. Yes, you can increase your net income to improve your net worth, getting a second job, side hustles, etc. But you can also decrease your expenses without using time to increase your net worth. And then the last piece is you have to stomach the courage to start finding ways to make your money make you more money. And you can only do that learning how to invest, learning the basics, and learning the things you need that will give you more certainty in the midst of trying to navigate and overcome your fear of investing.
Yeah, wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that helpful information to myself and my listeners. And I'm sure, like you said earlier, they're going to get a lot out of that. And hopefully they can take some of what they learned today and put that toward their future. One thing I always ask at the end of every one of my episodes, I always ask, what is a tip that you can share with my listeners as to how to rewire the way you think? And I feel like you've done that. But if you want to elaborate, you're more than welcome to do so. But I think the key word is financial freedom, right? Find a way to let your money make money, because that's a mindset, right? So that's one way. So what I normally do, George, is when I upload the podcast is I put your contact information. And this is for my listeners. If you are interested in reaching out to George and his services, I'm going to take today's episode in the description of the episode. I will put his contact information. So if you want to learn more about financial freedom, you want to learn more about investments and trading, whatever it is, when it comes to finances, you will be able to reach out to George by clicking on his link that he's going to provide. That will be inside the podcast episode description.
Yeah,
Any closing? Great. Yep. Any closing words or anything you would like to share before we close out today?
Yeah, the last thing I would just tell you, James, man. First off, man, I appreciate the invite, man. I appreciate being giving us the ability to have this good conversation. A lot of people want this information; they want to know this stuff, and they don't know where to get it. A lot of times, it's like it's not accessible to people so freely. But the last thing I would tell you for folks is that don't. One thing I would I tell people this all the time: don't fall in love with the outcomes you're seeing on people's lives, because you don't know what it cost them and what it took for them to get to that moment. You know, man, I'm going to be there. I'm going to, you know, I get that sometimes. You hear that, man, I'm going to start getting getting into rental properties and real estate like you got into. Are you though? Do you know what it took? Do you know the times I had to say no to things where I wanted to say yes? Do you know all the times that I had to put things to the side so that I'm able to put money here? Do you know the risks I had to take to get? When you so you fall in love more with the process. Connect with people and learn more about what was their process. How did you go? How did you go about this? What did you do here? How did you overcome this mentally to get here? And it's about the mindset, but focus more on the process on people's lives, not so much on the outcomes. Because sometimes we get so enamored with the other side of it. Man, I want that. I want to be living there. I want to have this. I want to be traveling here, traveling there. But it's within there. It was the journey beforehand where the solutions are in your life. It's in the journey that it took them to get to that outcome. And so ask questions and fall in love with the process more than the outcome. That's the last thing I'll leave people with, for sure.
Perfect. Well said. Well, hey, like I said earlier, on behalf of myself and the podcast, Fast Forward Mindset Motivational, thank you for joining today's episode. And you always are a welcome guest to this podcast.
Much appreciated, man. We got to do this again for sure another time.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank y'all for listening to today's episode. And remember, don't rewind your life, fast forward it. Until next time, keep moving forward. Hey, y'all, I'm Coach James. Let me help rewire the way you think. All right, y'all. Peace.